স্যারের সাথে কথা বলি, স্যার 2 মিনিটে ঢুকছেন।
ওকে।
সৈকত বাবু একটু বলে নিন যে অডিও আর ভিডিও একটু অফ করে রাখতে।
আমি মেসেজ করে দিয়েছি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
Participants, please switch off your this thing, mute yourself, please. You are requested to mute your audio and video, please. Please don't share your screen. Dear participants, you are requested to please don't share your screen.
স্যার ঢুকে গেলে একটু বলবেন, দিলে স্টার্ট করে দিব।
হ্যাঁ স্যার এসে গেছেন, স্যার এসে গেছেন।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা এসে গেছেন?
হ্যাঁ স্যার এসে গেছেন।
আচ্ছা मेरा आवाज सुनाई दे रहा है?
हाँ सर सुना जाच्छे, you are audible sir.
Yes. ओ भगवते वासुदेवाय. Good morning everybody. By taking the concept, sir, I want to start the program. Do I start the program, sir? Do I start the program, sir?
Please start.
Yes, thank you, sir. I heartily welcome all participants from different corners of our country. Resource person, our respective principal, sir, GD president, technical, teaching, non-teaching staff, and technical team. It is very glad to inform you that one day national level webinar on the topic global tension causes and consequences, organized by Department of Defense Study in collaboration with IQAC cell, RAMNAGAR College with us. Now I welcome our Honorable Chairperson Dr. Ananta Mohan Mishra, Principal, RAMNAGAR College, Depal, Purba, Medinipur, West Bengal. Please join our program. I heartily welcome Mr. Prakash Giri, GB President, RAMNAGAR College. Please join our program. Next, I welcome respected keynote speaker Dr. Vinod Mohan Mishra, Associate Professor, Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, Dept College from Kanpur. Please join our program. Respected Dr. Pankaj Jha is also present in this platform, Associate Professor and Associate Dean Research from Jindal University, New Delhi. Please join our webinar. I also welcome Honorable Speaker Mayanak Singh, Senior Defense Correspondent New India Express from New Delhi, please join this program. I request our joint convener, Mr. Soikat Soren, please continue this program. Thank you. And charge handover to Mr. Soikat Soren.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Mohan Das. RAMNAGAR College will be your host for the next remaining part of this webinar. I think there cannot be any right time than this to discuss today's topic, that is global tension during pandemic crisis causes and consequences. When tension is high along the borders with China and fear of war looms large, tension between the US and China are at the highest point. There cannot be any better time or platform to discuss these things. I wish all, including myself, have a rocking session ahead of us, and no one among us leave this webinar empty-handed. Thank you. And now I request Dr. Naranayan Das, Captain Naranayan Das, to please come forward and chant some Vedic hymns so that the atmosphere changes. Atmosphere of this webinar changes for good and we are filled with spirituality. Over to Dr. Mohan Das, please. Sir, can you hear me?
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Sriya Madeva Bhadram Prasema Akibhi Jajatra Srire Range Swastubang Sustanu Vibhi Yashema Deva Hitang Jadayu. Om Swasti Nandro Vriddhasrava Swasti Napusha Vishwadeva Swasti Natarko Arishtanemi Swasti Na Brihaspatir Dadhatu. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Dis Shanti Aushadhaya Shanti Prithvis Shanti Ayamarambha Shubhaya Bhavatu. Om Shanti 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 Om.
Thank you, Dr. Das, for making the environment so special for us. Now, going to the next part, no program seems to be complete without a little bit of touch of music. So I will call upon Professor Shutupa Deait, HOD Department of Music, to present inaugural song for this webinar. Ma'am, if you please come forward. Ma'am, can you hear me? Shunte pacchen? Hello?
Am I audible?
Shunte pacchen? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Audible.
We sing.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. Please carry on.
We sing a heartily welcome to all the guests and participants. I am serving my song by wishing a COVID-less world. Krishna prana dharana এসো প্রাণ ভরণ হইল এসো ভূপ এসো প্রাণ ভরণ হইল অরোখে গগন সুধাঙ্গে অরোখে অরোখে গগন সুধাঙ্গে অরোখে গগন গরচিত্ত ভবন শান্তি সদন এসো প্রাণ ভরণ হৃদয়ানন্দে চলুক বহিরা ছন্দে ছন্দে বসে হৃদয়ানন্দে চলুক বহিরা ছন্দে ছন্দে ও জীবন শান্ত চরণ এসো প্রাণ ভরণ বিষ্ণুভূপ পরম শরণ এসো প্রাণ
Thank you, ma'am, for your music. Now, I would like to call upon our beloved principal, Dr. Ananta Mishra, for his welcome address. Sir is not only our principal, he is one of the pioneers in the field of defense studies in our area. He was one of the key person who brought defense studies to our college, which was first among our university. That is Vidyasagar University in West Bengal. He is the first person, he was one of the key person to bring this course to our college. So sir, please come forward, please have your welcome address. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Hello. Hello, hello,
Sir,
hello.
can you hear
Are you
me?
hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, sir. Please carry on.
So, very, very good morning to all of you. It's a very special occasion uh, that the Department of Defense Study, RAMNAGAR College, has finally been able to organize an web meet, and the title is Global Tensions During the Pandemic Situation, Causes and Consequences. So, in this occasion, it is my proud privilege to welcome all the dignitaries, all the academicians, all the faculty members of RAMNAGAR College, students, representatives of the governing body, the president of the governing body, the technicians, and others. So, at the outset, it is my duty to mention Professor Dr. Vinod Mohan Mishra. He is the keynote speaker of this program, representing the Dept College, Kanpur, and he is the associate professor, Department of Military and Strategic Studies. I welcome him, and without whose assistance this program, I think, could not be implementable. Next, I would like to again welcome Professor Dr. Pankaj Jha, Associate Professor, Dean Research, Jindal University, New Delhi. He is also one of the distinguished speakers in our program. And finally, I must mention the name of Mr. Mayanak Singh. He is not an academician, but he is more than an academician because he is a man of field with a vast experience of ground reality. He is the senior defense correspondent, New India Express Group, New Delhi. In this occasion, I again welcome our Honorable President, Governing Body, Mr. Suprakash Giri. He is a young man and he has lots of energy and enthusiasm, and it is I have been noting that he has been participating in most of this program with his special interest and some sorts of learning skill and ability. I must welcome Dr. Naranaran Das, the coordinator of the Department of Defense Studies, RAMNAGAR College, took special initiative to organize this program. In this occasion, I also mention the name of Professor Himanshu Burman and Mr. Soikat Soren, representing the head Department of Zoology, and he is also the coordinator of IQAC RAMNAGAR College. And Mr. Soikat Soren, he is the librarian, but he is an special favor of academic tastes and skills and mailing, and he has put his full effort. Ignoring all sorts of difficulties, he has successful in implementing this program at the final stage. I also welcome the members of the Research and Seminar Subcommittee RAMNAGAR College, giving the broad guidance for organizing such seminars. I also mention the organizers of the organizing committee, research organizing committee for organizing this seminar. I finally welcome and felicitate my faculty members, those participated in this program, other academicians representing different colleges or universities, technicians whose skill have finally helped us to implement this program, and last of all, but not the least, the students for whom this program is finally dedicated and aimed for. The topic that has been chosen, I think it's a very contemporary issue. The issues has got the special mileage or dimension, especially during the pandemic situation. Otherwise, the tensions across the globe centering around different socio-politics and economic issues has been cropping up over the years. India being a country in the Southeast Asia, having 8 neighboring countries, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh. From the very beginning after the independence has been trying to maintain a peaceful, healthy bilateral relations for different issues. But in some cases, that policies has clicked for, but in some cases, we couldn't find the desired result due to different reasons. But it cannot be denied that from the very beginning, the country got independence as a result of partition, and partition has gifted us 3 independent nations, the Pakistan, the Bangladesh, and the India. But the relation with Pakistan from very beginning was not cordial. It's a long issue that can be discussed in different platforms with the help of different academic senses and angles. But we know the disputes with Pakistan and India was mostly concerned with the border issue and the Kashmir issue. And there has been a continued violence in Kashmir, and there has been increasing threat of terrorist activities by Pakistan-based military groups. In the year 2019, following the deployment of more than tens of thousands of additional troops and paramilitary forces to the region, the Indian government moved to remove the Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, removing the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. India administered Kashmir under lockdown with internet and phones on that situation. We all know in February 2019, an attack on a convoy of Indian paramilitary force in India and India-controlled Kashmir killed at least 40 soldiers. The attack claimed by Pakistan militant group Jaish-e-Mohammed was the deadliest, I think, in Kashmir during last 3 decades. The territorial disputes between India and Pakistan over Kashmir sparked 2 of the 3 major Indo-Pak war in the year 1947, 1965, and a limited war happened in the year 1999. And we all know the tension between India and Pakistan is a regular phenomenon, despite of a regular or a continuous dialogue, despite taking lots of initiatives between the 2 countries, and it is found almost an unresolvable issue. At the same time, the relation between India and China, centering around the border issues, is also not good. The root of the causes of the border issue can be identified in the year 1914, when representatives from Britain, the Republic of China and Tibet gathered in Simla to negotiate a treaty to determine the status of Tibet and effectively settle the borders between China and British India. The China proposed to confer autonomous status to Tibet and tried to keep it under their control. But Britain and Tibet signed a treaty establishing that would be called as the McMahon Line, named after a British colonial officer, Henry McMahon, who proposed and drew the border line. And that time it was unfortunate that the China, from their side, they did not accept it, and they were not agreeing with this border line drawn. But still India tried to maintain that line is the border line between India and China. And this McMahon line, I think, is a line bisecting in the mountain region of Himalayan range, having a length of about more than 550 miles. And immediately after the formation of the Chinese socialistic government in 1950, both the leaders from China and India tried to resolve the disputes of the border, and they enacted so many pact agreement which was mostly popular, the principles of Panchashil. But it was unfortunate that our Chinese neighbor or Chinese friends didn't keep their words as per their promise. And we saw in 1962, as a result, China attacked India, and in a month-long battle, the Chinese troops crossed the McMahon line and seized a considerable border area which was under the control of India. When they declared ceasefire, it was found that a huge border area has been captured by China, and they have been taking the control till date. It was the result. We see that Aksai Chin, it was originally under the control of India, but now it has been under the control of China. And the similar area is also under a vast area in Arunachal Pradesh also. Again, the tension came to a heat in the year 1967 along the two mountain passes in the Sikkim border, that is Nathula and Chola, connecting Sikkim. And in that case, India lost about 150 Indian soldiers, and China also lost a few soldiers, more than 350. And in that case, the Indian soldiers were successful to push them back in their region, though they tried to enter into the Indian area. But the recent tension between India and China, which has been observed in the Galwan Valley region, in the East Ladakh, and the Pangong Lake area, it is very unfortunate, because as a policy of the corridor policy of the China, they were in a position to construct a border road very close to the Indian, very close to the line of control between India and China, and to restrict them, their aggressive activities. India also took special initiative or similar initiative, and as a result, we saw during the month May an unfortunate face-to-face operation between the troops of China and India took place, and Indian soldiers numbering 20 became martyrs, though the casualties from the Chinese side remain undisclosed, though unofficially it was recorded that China also lost, or Chinese side, there has been a casualty which is more than the Indian side. And till then, the tension is increasing day by day. In fact, the tension between India and China, especially during the pandemic season, I think it is, in my opinion, it is not so much a border issue, but behind this, there has been a hidden economic issue, and the recent economic development, what China has resulted for, that has become a headache to our US officials also. The US also was not accepting their aggressive economic exploration, and as a result, this tension has been spread in the South Chinese Sea also. And South China Sea had lots of economic resources from the very beginning, without giving due honor to the interest of the regional countries like Fiji, Philippines, Taiwan's, Vietnam's. China was trying to get the absolute control on the Chinese sea route, and Chinese sea route has an economic importance because the total trade passing through the South China Sea, it is more than 3.37 trillion, which is 40% of the, it is also 40% of the global liquefied natural gas trade transited through that sea route. And also China just developed 3,200 acres of new land in the South China Sea since 2013. This has created a panic among the neighboring countries like Australia, Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and finally the USA have also become very fearful due to the aggressiveness that's shown by the China. And finally, India has also become one of the partner of this issue because the route between South China Sea is also passing to the Indian Ocean, Arabian Ocean, because mostly the crude oil being imported from the Middle East countries are passes through this route. And they have also tried to create their permanent or temporary settlements centering around Andaman Sea, isolated islands, even in the Sri Lanka also. And they have already almost purchased the geographical strategic locations of Pakistan as well. So the tensions have now become a single one. It has got multiplicity with different multidimensional issues, mostly centering around different economic interests of different countries. Apart from this, in the Southeast Asian countries, there are also a growing tension, and the major issues are the reserve oil or the fossil fuel occupied by the Middle East countries, where different Western countries, along with the China and USA, also going to put their control for their interests. The today's seminar, I think, these are the major areas where will be highlighted with proper analysis, with statistical notes and references, so that being an Indian, we have to know what our neighboring countries are doing and what India is doing. Because India, what was in the year 2000 is not in the year 2020, because India has also developed its socio-economic base from different angles during last 20 years. And now they also in a position to extend their activities, to extend their leadership at the worldwide perspective, where China is their main contender. And the experts opine that India has a bright future if they simply play their appropriate role at the world atmosphere, resolving the tension with the interest of humanity and civilization. India has a long tradition of a very peaceful country. India never attacked others. India has been affected by the others in different times, but India has shown their patience and perseverance to monitor and nurture the different foreign attacks or foreign aggressiveness. But it cannot be denied that only patience and perseverance not the ultimate solutions when your opponent is aggressive in all things. So we have to find out a new strategy or chalk out our current strategy, especially in the pandemic situation, so that India finally being able to become a true world leader as per their capabilities. I again thanking you all, especially the dignitaries, especially the others, those associated us with their warm association to make this our endeavor a successful one. Again, thanking you all.
Thank you, sir, very much for your wonderful speech, in-depth speech and analysis, which we think will help us everybody. Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, going forward, I would like to invite our very own Mr. Shuprakash Giri, President GB RAMNAGAR College, who is also a well-known social worker in this area, to deliver his special speech. Sir, please, if you come forward. Sir, আপনি কি আছেন?
আমি কিন্তু দেখিনি, জানেন তো, আমি দেখতে পাইনি।
আমি মনে হলো একটু আগে দেখলাম।
আপনি দেখেছেন? আমি দেখিনি। প্রেসিডেন্ট স্যার থাকলে একটু স্পিচ দিয়ে আমাদের সামনে। হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো, আমি দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, বুঝলেন? পরে যদি উনি মানে অ্যাবসেন্ট, তখন আমরা না হয় ওনার স্পিচটা করিয়ে নেবো, আপনি না হয় নেক্সট সেশনে চলে যান, নেক্সট ইস্যুতে চলে যান।
Okay, for unfortunate reasons, we will have to move forward. Now, this marks the end of the inaugural session. Now we enter technical session, in which we have a special and distinguished guests, Dr. Vinod Mohan Mishra, who is Associate Professor, Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, DAV College, Kanpur, UP. He is also the keynote speaker of this webinar. Sir, please, if you can come forward and present yourself. Sir, please, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, please, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, everybody. Respected Suprakash Giri, sir, Ananta, Mohan, Mishra, Professor Narayana, sir, and invited speaker Dr. Pankaj Jha and Singh, and all participants. Topic of the webinar: Global Tension During Pandemic, Causes and Consequences. Very good topic of the seminar. The law of nature is to change. It changes every moment. There is nothing permanent, and change is only constant. A novel coronavirus, designated as 2019, emerged in Wuhan city, China. Wuhan city, China. At least 830 cases had been diagnosed in 9 countries during starting: China, Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, and Nepal, and United States. The outbreak of coronavirus in China shocked the world due to adverse impact on the global economy. The coronavirus pandemic is leading a massive disruption in the economy of the country. Key sectors continue to be sparked by the outbreak. Supply chain disruption apart, a lack of demand in affecting sales of mobile phones, electronics, automotives. India went through elongated countrywide lockdown to combat the pandemic by restricting movement of its people. These lockdowns directly affected the travel industry like aviation, rail, and road transport. This further adversely affected the hospitality sector, from big hotels to small business like restaurants, spas, beauty parlors, and street food vendors have been shattered by the double blow of the pandemic and the lockdown. This research paper highlights the measures taken by the Government of India to tackle the setback on travel, tourism, and hospitality sector. The COVID-19 crisis affected societies and economy all around the globe, and it will permanently reshape our world as it is continued to unfold. While the fallout from the crisis is increasing the risk as well as creating new ones, its also creating new openings for managing systematic challenges and way to build back better. Never in the history of humankind have nearly 3 billion people of the world been under lockdown. COVID-19 has infected nearly 200 countries, taking away over 250,000 lives in a span of 3 months. From Wuhan to many major international cities are now under massive attack. And unwavering, virus has challenged our leadership capabilities and accidentally led to governments and corporations reflecting on getting their priorities right, especially with regard to the state of public health systems all over the world. As nations continue battling coronavirus and racing to develop a vaccine at the earliest possible date, there are many emerging trends that the world will be see because of the pandemic. First, global slowdown and loss of jobs. Number second, increasing inequalities and policy uncertainty, change in social behavior, paradigm shift in governance, new world order. COVID-19 has infected over 200 countries around the world, and every nation has suffered both in terms of human loss and economic slowdown. Environment conservation, digitalization of all sectors, and carrying out business, classes for students, meeting remotely and within minimum mobility are some of trends that will be emerge governance at various levels in both public and private sectors. The world's second largest economies, the US, China, have been locked in a trade war for more than a year now, and with the pandemic, both economies have suffered due to a lockdown of factories and shutdown of production lines, etc. The US recently recorded highest unemployment rate in decades, and their slowdown will have direct impact on the global economy. The International Labour Organization reported that nearly 195 million people have already lost their jobs since the start of the year 2020, and an additional 25 million jobs have been lost after the COVID-19 outbreak. Measures such as extended lockdown periods, isolation, and enforced social distancing can impact the fabric of society. In general, people might develop an anxiety due to increased uncertainty, job insecurity, or lack of social support, leading to rise in alcoholism, divorce, suicide, domestic violences, drug abuses, or other harmful behavior. In the aftermath of COVID-19, the idea of holiday travel will also change as airport security becomes more significant. Surveillances in public places will become more intensive, and working from home may become the norm of most of the workforce. As such, we have to clearly set out action plan for dealing with the mental well-being and health of their citizens. A positive externally of the COVID-19 pandemic for many highly urbanized global cities was reduced pollution levels, decreased level industrial activity, less waste and toxins produced. Governments, especially In developing countries, we will have to begin focus on population control measures, invest more in public health systems, develop IT infrastructure, and reduce carbon emissions. Government will also invest in defense mechanisms, particularly those geared towards combating germ foreign biowarfare, setting up specialized agencies for their possible threats. China and India will now become a very important player of the world trade. International cooperation, a shift in power from west to east in clearly afoot with a new world order in the making. The ongoing crisis presents an opportunity for us to reflect on our priorities at the government, family or individual level. At an institutional level, it is time we invest more resources into our public health system, infrastructure and training health professionals. The coronavirus lockdown is situating our environment. With the COVID-19 lockdown in place, the smog has given way to soils, waterways, and they are seeing more marine life and pollution level have dropped to a large extent. In Kerala, Kozhikode, Malabar, civet, which is a critically endangered animal, was spotted walking on the road. Ever since the coronavirus pandemic struck across the globe, several reports have emerged highlight the return of many species to their natural habitat. The drastic measures taken by government because because of the spreading of novel coronavirus and the shutdown of factories, commercial establishments, and vehicular movement has resulted in a drop in pollution level across the world. As coronavirus is rapidly spreading around the world, most people are still confined to their homes. Schools and offices have remained shutting for week and week now, while some have lost their jobs. Others are struggling to earn their daily bread amidst the lockdown. In thick of all the gloom and doom, there is a silver lining. Mother Earth seems to have rejuvenated itself. Smog has given way to black skies. Marine life is in increased activity. Pollution level has dropped, and animals elevate well. Birds are moving about on their own accord. Despite challenge, the COVID lockdown has opportunity for India's realty sector. Lower rates, higher sales. Fourth measure, digital push and encouraging medical tourism into India. The Reserve Bank of India's decision to reduce the repo rate to revive the Indian economy will benefit the realty sector. The industry was already grappling with construction delay and now it's likely to be impacted further. Besides lockdown, which restricted the movement of people and raw material, reverse migration will have a compounded impact. The adoption of digital technology among developers is likely to get a boost due to the crisis, with home buyers likely a wide site visit. Developers would need to leverage augmented reality and virtual reality to give home buyers a glimpse of their project. Builders and owners might have a reduced price to sell inventory, which could be a great opportunity for investors grab good deals. The number of people coming to India for medical treatment will grow up, as well as job opportunities in medical field also be increased. The pandemic has definitely been an eye-opener for many world leaders who are often in the race of economic success and expansion. In the face of this crisis, every global citizen and world leader must truly understand the fragility of human life and what is meant to poets and humans amidst with disease and disclosure. Uh, COVID-19 has posed an unprecedented challenge for India. Despite this, in the future, the state government would follow the social distancing norms and other rules to run the tourism sector. The Indian government is considering offering a 6-month package for the hospitality aviation industry. The package being found could include a 6-month suspension of GST payments. Various measures, such as making it mandatory for passengers to wear protective gear, are being explored to make it travel safe. Masks and face covers will become a part of the life of people. Last quotation. Every day is an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. Every hour, every minute, every second, there is an opportunity. If you want to realize, you have to observe France with a positive mindset. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Vinod Mohan Mishra, for your valuable and informative speech, which will surely enrich us and help us to understand the topic in a better way. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, moving to the next part, I will like to call upon Dr. Pankaj Jha, Associate Professor and Associate Dean Research of Jindal University, New Delhi. He has authored many books. Among them, notable are India, China in Southeast Asia, Competition or Cooperation, India and Oceania, Exploring Vistas of Cooperation, and he has also participated in high-level dialogues in Germany, Belgium, Israel, China, and New Zealand. So, sir, please, if you can come forward and deliver your lecture.
Thank you, Professor Mohan Mishra, the members of the organizing committee, the management, and thanks for inviting me on a very topical issue that is being really raised. You know how this post-COVID order will shape life. Professor Vinod Mohan Mishra outlined what exactly will be the economic and political dynamics and also social dynamics, how it will be impacting the overall composition of the world and how it will pan out in future. But let's take it a little bit more further, and I'm going to focus how the world order will shape up. Yesterday, I was chairing a panel with regard to the commemorating the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, and it has been nearly 2 decades that we have seen 9/11 attacks, and there has been a lot of changes. The thing which 9/11 has created was primarily with regard to looking into terrorism from a completely new perspective. The same is going to happen with regard to this COVID-19. COVID-19 is the 9/11 attack on the human lives. Human lives which don't know that how it has sneaked into their lifestyle, how it has sneaked into their employment, how it has sneaked into their way of life. Everything has changed. This is known as the tectonic movement in the larger scheme of things of the human lives. When you look into the 9/11 and compare it with COVID-19, even though people will say it's a very not it's kind of a just comparison as such, but I take a leaf out of it. Why? Because 9/11 gave a new kind of an outlook that humans cannot be ignored. And the country has to take responsibility for that if there is some terrorist attacks or violence which is happening around the world. Now also over a period of time we have seen, the emergence of new terrorist groups. But this kind of a COVID-19 opens up a Pandora's box. A Pandora's box which might see that how the health diplomacy really work, how this vaccine diplomacy will really work, how the countries which think they are invincible and nuclear weapons is the only way which will act as a deterrent for again any adversarial ambitions that any country has against a particular power is completely decimated. It's destroyed. That nuclear weapons are ineffective, the militaries are ineffective. What we need is a complete army of health workers, army of medicines, healthcare, and who can really look into these aspects in a new light. People have been talking about how the tensions have conflagrated across the world. You take into account and it has been rightly said the South China Sea is a tension point, East China Sea is another tension point. Taiwan, you find China really venturing through its aircraft into the Taiwan's airspace. Then you find Russia and China really holding hands together at these times of crisis. And also Iran really coming together and really talking about it. Now, this whole creates a unique axis which is quite disturbing. And I call this as a term which is known as PRIC, P-R-I-C-K. What does PRIC really means in the post-global order when the COVID really, fades away? The P starts for Pakistan, R stands for Russia, I for Iran, C for China, and K for Korea. Korea, in this regard, I mean the North Korea. These PRIC countries will be pricking the so-called US hegemony in across this region itself. Why? Because they are galvanizing, they are getting together. And we have recently seen the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings and how they have really panned out of a new kind of a world order which might be completely challenging this NATO or the US hegemony per se as such. But also on the second part of this whole discourse, you need to understand that in the last 2-3 years, we have seen the germination, the strengthening of the rightist movements, across Europe, across US, which looks, politics from a completely rightist perspective. But this loss of jobs and not better living standards, people dying of hunger, which will be, sort of a collateral from the post-COVID phase, which will emerge. Now we will see again a resurgence of a leftist movements across the world because people want at least safe and sound fundamentals with regard to health, with regard to medicine, with regard to education and all those things. And they think that, garnering lot of wealth and which is really mobilized in certain corners of the world with very few wealthy women, and there will be a lot of unemployment, there will be lot of people who will be without jobs and their families will be completely devastated. Now this will create a unique kind of a social order problem. People's savings will be lost and they will have to look for other alternative modes. Employment opportunities will be reducing less. But then there will be another dawn of the social order which will be coming into being. And this kind of a social order will be more with regard to family, the commitment to the family, the attachment to the family, the attachment to a particular social space. We think that it should not be consumerism because consumerism hasn't given much. Again, this whole issue of tourism, hospitality industry, not really garnering that kind of a momentum to be back on its feet. The third aspect which becomes very critical and which is primarily economics. People have been talking about the Belt and Road initiatives and how China has been making inroads and how it has been giving loans. The biggest problem that will be coming across with regard to China is many of these countries will not be able to repay the loans. Most of the repayment period will start from 2020 onwards. In this regard, if China doesn't give concessions, China becomes a Frankenstein, a monster, and a devil all at the same time. Because many of the countries will see that despite being impoverished, despite being unemployment, wild-scale unemployment, and health and other medical issues, China is not considerate. So this whole edifice, when people say that China will rule the world and there will be Beijing order, there will be certain disturbances which China will have to face at this point of time. Also, you need to look into how China's domestic politics will shape up. It's not that China is very peaceful, China, everything is gung-ho about China. No, it is not that. And there is a domestic repercussions. There are certain groups which feel that Xi Jinping has brought China to such a brink that most of the countries around its periphery are enemies nowadays. You take the case of Central Asia, you take the case of Japan, you take the case of Vietnam, you take the case of India. Nobody really wants China in the way that it is behaving. Therefore, this whole concept of China's benign rise and a responsible power is completely decimated. But whether US can pitch in and join the forces with regard to really creating that just global order, I believe US itself is now facing a lot of domestic problems with regard to, Black Lives Matter and unemployment and the deaths which have been widespread across the US itself. Europe is facing the same kind of a quagmire, the same kind of a problems which US has been facing itself. Somewhere down the line, if you look into it, the global order will have different pockets, different strategic pockets, which will look into how they are going to shape their region, how they are going to come across and develop their camaraderie among themselves. And the third issue which I wanted to say, the globalization will be a big punching ball. People will think that the globalization has given certain relief in terms of more employment, more labor, more capital. But now what has happened, the domestic protectionism will take much more greater shape. They will say that we need to generate employment, we need to generate demand and should fulfill the needs of the people itself. But in this regard, economies such as China, those which are largely export-oriented economies, will feel the pinch. And given the fact that China is not acting as per the international order norms, people will be trying to shift their demand patterns, particularly those raw materials which have been coming from China to some other sources. It's just because China is the one-stop shop, people have not explored other markets. Other markets, other manufacturing, other regional supply chain will be coming into being. It might be in Africa, it might be in Southeast Asia, it might be in Latin America for that matter. Also, people have been really saying that this oil energy market, the energy market will be stagnating for the next 2-3 years. It's not going to rise up because there is just not enough demand. The fourth aspect that I really want to come into and is with regard to military industry. The military industry is a very strange kind of animal. Why I'm saying this, that the military industry is one of those industries where inflation is quite high by year on year. And there will be some kind of tensions which will be created, which will be generated so that the equipment, weapons and all those things can be sold to the best bidder and to the best country which faces some tensions. Of late, whenever you have seen that with regard to India-China tensions, India has procured weapon system on an accelerated momentum that we want these weapons earlier. Even Rafale delivery is one of these cases which have really shown. The tensions within Middle East will be much more magnified. And I strongly see that when the oil prices are low, we will have a lot of diaspora, Indian NRIs or Indian expatriate labor coming back from Gulf to India, and they will be having serious social issues, serious issues with regard to mental health, because they will be earning now for the next 1 year or so. They have to really save themselves and protect themselves with regard to their livelihood. And they might not find that kind of salary, that kind of employment in India when they return back. That will be another cascading effect, a domino effect, which will happen to the Indian economy as such. West Asia itself, which have somehow survived the spring, Arab Spring itself, will have another round of Arab Spring which will be coming on the corners. And I don't know how many Gulf countries will dig into their coffers, dig into their treasury to keep the people happy, because that is the biggest issue that is really going to come up in near future. And last point, and I will rest on that, the fifth issue which is really going to come up is whether, again, this big question of whether COVID-19 can be weaponized. Whether COVID-19, because people have seen that how COVID-19 has shaped up. COVID-19 has forced many of the European countries to abandon their factories in China, sell it at throwaway prices, and go away. China got a dividend of technology. And in international relations and political science also, we never took a technology as a major wild card, wild card which can really change the whole apple cart at one point of time. And the second is biological and chemical aspects of this COVID-19. Can this COVID-19 be weaponized? Can this different variant of COVID-19 can be used by terrorists? Can this COVID-19 can be used for ulterior purposes, contaminating a particular area with a very fast accelerating mutant or a virus or a strain which can affect human lives for a longer period of time. Let's say people can be affected for 28 days, 38 days, and then the virus completely dissolves into the air or just goes away. That kind of a thing is going to happen. The thing is that this COVID-19 will bring about a new normal of masks, new normal of face shields, new normal of completely segregated living, new normals of ghettos where people will be feeling that we are safe, our area and zone is completely contained as such. But also it will also question this very fact that who will bring about a change in the world order. And I want to say that whosoever brings about the best vaccine, which gives the people freedom of mind, at whatever price, this will be a big game changer. And therefore you find China also announcing that I have got the vaccine, Israel also announcing that we are working on a vaccine and it will be out, Russia also saying that we have got the vaccines and it will be out. So that kind of a competition which will be happening across the world, be it the case of US, European and all those things. But in this whole complexity of things, how India will shape out. India, is one of the biggest experiment labs for vaccines, particularly with regard to its testing among the humans. Our human lives is very cheap. And there are people who are willing to test these medicines on a very paltry sum of 2,000 to 5,000 rupees. What happens to them? They don't care because they know our lives are very paltry. And I have seen on account of it, our legal laws, legal provision with regard to human trials are very, very tardy. It's not very good. Now, in this whole concept, India will emerge as a big medicine power, but it will have to suffer this human disadvantage where people will have to suffer because of the sad effects of the vaccines, which will be under trial. How India will pan up, how India will shape up, how India is going to really address these issues regarding to economic aspects, political aspect, and military aspect is yet to be seen. Nobody can be sure, even I am not sure at this point of time. But this COVID-19 has brought about this 9/11 moment in terms of biological aspects of life. And I hope we find the medicine sooner than later, because otherwise this whole global order will be defined and will be completely directed by this one event, which is known as COVID-19. Who wins the war, which is very latent but very potent, is yet to be seen. I rest my case over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Pankaj Jha, for your wonderful speech, sir. You talked wonderfully interesting prick. We heard prick from you, markets, how it will sound after the post-COVID era, military industry, Indian economy, shape of Indian economy, that is West Asia, technological and biological aspects. And of course, lastly, game changer, the vaccine will come about. Thank you, sir, once again for your wonderful and informative speech. Thank you, sir. Next, I will like to invite our special guest, Mr. Mayanak Singh, who is a senior defense correspondent from the New India Express, New Delhi, for his lecture. His notable articles, he is very popular, and his notable articles are numerous. I am going to say a few of the names which are relevant to our current topic, that is Galwan, starting from the Galwan classes, Ladakh standoff, Rafale jets, big guns to missiles, in big push for Atmanirbhar Bharat Defense Ministry to embargo import of 101 items in phases, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier ready for basing trial reserves. These all articles are authored by him, and it's our pleasure to introduce him. And sir, I request you to say, please deliver your lecture. Thank you, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir. And what a pleasure watching all these people all around and experts like Dr. Vinod Mishra and Dr. Pankaj Jha. It's a pleasure. And so many students I'm knowing that so many students, researchers, academicians, they are also part of the entire presentation actually. And by listening to these people, I have realized that they are very serious people. And presenting things in a way, but me being a person who has been on the field and is often traveling around, watching the orders, meeting the officers who are dealing with the security, and then the after effects of it all around. I think my presentation is actually more to do with the ground situation. Initially, I can talk of overview. I'll be talking of overview like Dr. Mishra spoke and Dr. Jha spoke. And then I would like to present certain videos. So I need help of your technical team, how to connect my videos from it. If somebody can help me with that. Dr. Mishra.
You have to share your screen, sir.
How to share that screen, sir? There are 3.
I will tell you.
Please tell, sir.
Yes, sir. Wait a minute. Wait, hold on, sir.
I'll be holding, sir. And I mean, lots of people with interesting faces and lots of interest are watching all this actually. Why I'm wanting to present the videos and the photographs, they take you to the situation, the practical situation. And a lot of you might be aware of Lachen, Lachung, Kibithu, Bumla, Lumdula, Tawang, Ladakh. But when you see these places, Dr. Mishra was already mentioning about LAC.
Sir, can you hear me, sir? Please, sir. You
Yes,
have an icon present now to your right, sir, right of your screen. You will have to click on that, and then you will have to click full screen.
Say it again, sir.
Sir, you have an icon present now to the right of the screen. Present now.
Present now.
Right to the icon, turn on captions. You will go to have to.
Done, sir.
Then
full screen. Okay. I think something is there. Dr. Mishra, present now. My entire screen. What to do now, sir? Share.
Yes, sir. You have to share it. Share it.
I have shared it, sir.
Still, it's not coming.
It's not coming, sir. Hold on, sir. It will happen.
Is it now for people?
Can you hear me?
I think somebody else is logged in.
Click on the right 3 dots on your screen if you are on a...
Yes, yes. I have clicked.
Present screen. Shows present screen if you are on an iPad or something like that.
No, I am on laptop.
Laptop, you will have to look.
There's an icon present now.
Yeah.
Then 3 options are coming: a window, your entire screen, and
The technical team will have to give you permissions for presenting screen. Maybe
yes.
they have.
Technical team, can you please give me the permissions?
Sir, you are given permission already, sir. Permission is also already given to you, sir.
What it is showing is Dr. Vinod Kumar Mishra is presenting. The current status is
Dr. Vinod Kumar Mishra আগে বলে সেটা এখন দেখাচ্ছে কি করব আচ্ছা Acha, sir, now try it, sir. Now go to the process. I mean, present now, then share entire screen. Share the entire screen.
I'm trying, sir. Present now, entire screen. And again, it's showing Vinod Kumar is
Hey,
present.
Vinod Kumar is showing. It's Vinod Kumar. Vinod Kumar.
Can you ask Vinod Kumar to log off?
Hey, Vinod Kumar, remove karo. Also, sir, he has been removed, sir. Dr.
Right, sir.
Vinod.
I'll try it again, sir. Entire screen. It's not showing, sir. It's not coming.
Enter screen করে তারপর share করতে।
I did, sir.
It's not coming.
It's not coming. It has happened, sir. हो गया.
Thank you, sir. It's coming now.
Right, sir. So now I'll.
Okay, it's coming now. এক মিনিট ধরো, চলবে না। So it's showing Mayanak Singh is presenting, but it's not coming.
I'll select.
এক মিনিট ধরো।
Is it coming, sir?
Yes, sir, your screen is presenting, but it's black. It's not showing anything. The entire screen is now. I think you have to share your screen. Entire screen.
I'm sorry, I'm bothering people, but
No. Now it's all right. You can now present, I think.
Acha. Am I? Is it coming? Understanding?
Coming.
Yes.
It's coming.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Slide is visible.
Thank you so much. So I'll specifically focus towards the borders because our esteemed presenters, researchers and scholars, two senior professors, they have already presented the wider perspective of it. But before I start presentation, I would like to say that puzzle started right from the beginning. As soon as you heard of coronavirus, and then suddenly the bickering started. US is talking of the Wuhan, that virology lab, and then suddenly China says that no, it is actually a conspiracy of US Army, which the soldiers who came during the International Military Games, they planted that virus, and then lots of forth and to and fro allegations, lots of claims they started, and the entire world order today is actually in a quagmire. And as Dr. Pankaj Jha rightly presented, that there will be lots of changes. Now, when you see that, and you would have never ever imagined, none of you would have ever imagined that flights will never take off, trains won't fly, the buses won't even go, people will be inside their houses. And that was not in one country, it was world over. The people, all the people, they were actually stuck to their houses. Now, having said that, if you see all this, it has brought a change into the mind of the people also. The planning, the business, the daily work, the movement, conveyance, and of course military. It has changed. Defense studies is actually a study of all the security aspects, and that's why this particular my presentation comes specifically towards the borders now, China and all. See, we have to understand what's happening between India and China, because primarily the focus in the last 4 months, since May 9th, the entire focus went to the line of actual control, which is as per MHA, which is 3,488 kilometers. 826 kilometers is what the LAC is in Ladakh. And when you must have by now, everyone must have got to, must be well versed with the names like Galwan Valley, Depsang, patrolling points, Pangong So, which is the lake, Pangong So, the finger areas, southern bank, northern bank. These are the specific points wherein the standoffs have taken place since 9th of May. 10th, Nakula, there was a standoff. And then that day, it was I who reported that on the intervening night of 5th and 6th, there was a clash, massive clash on the height of Finger Fort. That is when the 826 kilometers border in Ladakh, it got active. And then within a week, there was a deployment all along the LAC. LAC is divided into 3 sectors, which is, you all must be aware, western sector, middle sector, and eastern sector. So I have got the specific videos of those places, because people might not understand the security aspects of these places when they start talking of China, the dynamics of terrain, the dynamics of altitude, the dynamics of weather conditions upon human who are operating into those areas. That is very important, because this is going to change. This is going to change in entirety. How will there be collection of forces? Because the governments, they have already decided that there won't be gatherings, larger gatherings. Although there had been, lockdown has been opening in phases, but large gatherings will always be cautious. Everyone will have to follow certain norms. Imagine wherein the forces will have to function in groups, in masses, and working with lots of equipment which are of metals, iron, tungsten, platinum. That aggravates the entire problem. And add to it now altitude, add to it the terrain, add to it the difficulty which Indian side faces. Add to it all this, and you will realize that this is a massive tectonic shift. We can say that. Now I'll come to my presentation. What we see northern borders is a plateau. And if you start from the east, which is around 11,000 feet, you rise up to Karakoram Pass, which is the another end on the western sector, which is around 17,500 feet, almost 18,000, you can say. So this is what the elevation of that area is. But how come this entire complication happened? That needs to be understood. Because wider perspective you have already heard. Let's come to the specific. This entire border which we face, which is all the northern border LAC, is governed by the Western Theatre Command of the PLA, Chinese PLA. Interesting point why I have named a officer here, General Cao Hongqi. Now this officer is heading the Western Theatre Command today. This officer, he took charge when the reforms took place within the PLA. There were 7 commands earlier. Now there are theatre commands, and India comes under Western Theatre Command, which handles entire Xinjiang and Tibetan Autonomous Region. General Cao is said to be, when profiling was done, it was found that this officer is very ambitious. He wanted to be the part of the hallowed CMC, Central Military Commission. And when he was being nurtured by his previous officer, people believe that since he's being nurtured by an officer who himself is part of the CMC, so there is a lot of possibility that this officer will replace, General Cao will replace as member of the Central Military Commission, which is headed by the President of China. It did not happen. Now, when you see there is a annual confidential report of every officer, and as per that analysis of it, helps them to take promotions, to get promotions. If this officer doesn't prove that what China has been doing since ages, which is called salami slicing. Salami slicing is when you slowly, without raising too much of interest of your adversary, you slowly occupy the places. So this officer was had to prove himself. He wanted to prove himself to become the part of Western Theatre Command. And for that, he started lots of activities right from Doklam. So when Doklam 2017 happened, he started, there was no instigation, nothing. Suddenly he started building roads, a track. Tracks help in faster movement. So if you see, suddenly you see, it happened for 2.5 months. People, diplomatic missions, military talks, they took place. It was somehow resolved. But what Chinese did is actually, there's a change since then. The change was that Chinese changed the pattern of deployment. They made it permanent. Doklam today has become a permanent base for the Chinese. Otherwise, what they used to do is actually, they used to stay far behind, let's say 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers into their logistical areas. And from there, because of their good plateau-like conditions, the plains on that side, videos I'll show of those areas. The plateau-like conditions, they have very good roads. So what they used to do is, whenever the need came, they used to ply on their vehicles, rush to the border areas and do the standoffs. This is totally different in the Chinese side, Indian side. There's a high elevation, right from, let's say, most of the people might be aware of Bhalukbong, otherwise it was the Arunachal side. Or in the Sikkim side also, there's an area from where the actual heights start. So it's difficult on Indian side. It used to happen that by the time Indian patrols they used to start, Chinese used to come and sit over the heights. This all changed. These are the major incidents, and you have to understand the month, which I have written in my PPT. October. Sondongchu also happened generally into that time. It is called the campaign period. Now, campaigning also depends on weather conditions. Apart from terrain, your preparedness, or instigations. So these are the times when people, the previous commanders, they have found that the clashes have been taking place. But this incident is totally away. As I said, lots of conventional things have changed right from Doklam. Permanent deployment. The shift of campaign period to May. Standoff happened. And the reason which was given was that DSGBO road, which India 255 kilometer roads, which had been constructed, it was the instigation for Chinese. But if you remember, how come sudden such a huge mass of troops? It is on the LAC in the dark. Did it happen just like that? That shows there was a very deep planning. Such a massive movement along with tanks, artillery, missiles, it was done. It was shown that there's a clash. India is suddenly constructing roads into the areas where it should not be, as the Chinese say. And they came, clashed with your soldiers. They came and sat on Finger 4 and started spreading in Ladakh. And it has also to be understood why Ladakh. That's my personal analysis. When you talk to the military, you'll find that they tell that eastern borders, eastern sector, which is Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, lots of military buildup has happened. It was only Ladakh area wherein the Chinese thought that if they stop Indians at this juncture, India would be not in position ever to balance the military with the Chinese. And that is the major reason why today the Chinese are actually sitting in Ladakh, and that's my analysis. There had been, since 1993, there had been agreements, and this showed, Ladakh incidents, they have showed that it was unilateral shift. Person who is talking, who is lots of confidence building measures are being agreed to, they are being signed, and suddenly one fine day, Chinese sent huge builder Do you know that almost 50,000 troops, they are all along 826 kilometers of borders, and tanks, missiles, radars. Behind of them, at the air bases, there are fighters also. They are all, they have been put up only to intimidate India to coalesce, to understand, to agree to what they want. This peculiarity is this: it is unilateral, pushing aside all the MOUs and CBMs. But what India did, it has kept all the channels of communication open. These are the details which I have put for you. There are 5 hotlines which continue to buzz every day. Every day, the local commanders in these 5 areas, they talk to each other. They exchange the conditions, the present conditions, and this is what India has done, and India is continuously doing and saying that let us continue with the talks. Now, this is very important to understand the mindset of a country which is China. This is what I have been talking about. You know, China is a communist. The difference in governance system. China is a communist nation. India is a democratic nation. They have a different modes, mechanism to govern the nations. And if that be, China has been blaming India that India is forming alliances with the democratic nations, which is quite normal because suspicions have always come from China. And any country which shows suspicion, you would like to be cautious of that country. Now, I mean that I mean to underline that this suspicion is innate because the difference of governance. And for them, the suspicion rose more when India was talking to like-minded nations like Japan, Australia, US, India. India is part of that. And China felt the pressure because of the corona, which today is saying that it is actually the virus, its genesis lies in China. Then the trade war with US has also compelled them to somehow redirect the focus of their people from themselves. And as Dr. Pankaj Jha brought out, there are factions within the military. And General Tsao, whose name I have just written, he is part of those ambitious lot of officers who want to go to the rise to the higher pedestals. Now, having said that, I wish to show you certain videos to make my points even further clear. And most important is how LAC is actually marked when you go to the borders. Sir, is the video visual?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it's visible.
Great. So the Indian side, you see the Indian officer and Chinese officer, they are standing at Bumla. And this is the last meeting in September last year. So 1 year back, this meeting took place. I was part of it. The Indian side, Indian officers are coming from that side. And my main purpose to show you the video is to show you the LAC. Right at the place where these two officers are standing is the LAC. Look, those heap of mountains is the LAC. We have crossed, the Indian officers have crossed the LAC. You all will now understand when we say that it is not, it is the entire LAC is undemarcated. This is what LAC is. Because this video is important for the scholars here. I'll change the video now. I'll show you something else. The difficulties of the terrain wherein the military works and wherein there are no people into those areas. This is Arunachal, the video where I took you to. I'll take you to now Lachen, which is Sikkim. And I'll show you something very interesting into that area. So after getting cautious of China, India started placing its armored vehicles all along the valleys. Since it is a national seminar, I assume that as the narrator in the beginning, right in the beginning, told that entire people from entire country are watching this. It is important that people understand the differences here. And why? Because then only they'll appreciate that although it is mountain, the same border has 3 different kind of a terrain. And very surprisingly, there are roads wherein it appears that you are on the plains. I'll show you that road, one of the roads. This is Bunker Post, wherein many of you might have got a chance to go to, and if not, you will go now. Look at this. So you can ply your vehicle at the speed of almost 80, 90, 100 kilometers. And this is at the height of 16,000 feet. The temperature was almost -3. And there's nobody to guide. So if you lose your way, you might be lost into that area. There's another aspect to this difficulty. I'll show you that also. It is called whiteout. Now see whiteout. Whiteout is when snow envelops the entire surrounding. And that happens for a long, long period into these areas. Whether you go to Ladakh, whether you come to middle sector, which is Uttarakhand and Himachal, or you come to Sikkim and Arunachal. That might not be the same. The difficulty factor might not be the same for the Chinese, but it has a different limitation for them. But first, what is whiteout? It's all white. And if your vehicle stops, it is all covered by snow. This is bump 4. He's talking towards the Doklam side. We're moving towards bump 4. Now we are returning from bump 4 and look at the, although we used music that time because by that time we were all stressed up. It's drizzling. So flying a vehicle into those heights is also very difficult. Now when you build a road into that area, the construction material has also to be carried on the plains. And if not, then picking up things in your hands, the boulders and all, it's so difficult. So the gestation period for bringing out, now look at the valleys. My two previous speakers are very serious speakers actually. I thought I'll add some music. So this is whiteout. The concept had to be understood for our scholars to understand the kind of a difficulty which we face into that area. And in the end, I'll come to the prognosis. I'll stop the video here. Now I'll take you to Ladakh. It is also important because the current situation has to be understood by you all through the images. When you talk of DSDB road, it is one of the most important bridge which you see here. Colonel Shivang mentioned Setu. It has been built on permafrost with a different new technology. And what is riling up today China, if they are speaking right when they say that India is building roads, this bridge lies on that road. DSDBO, 255 kilometer long road. Darbuk, Shiok, and Daulat Beg Oldi. I'll show you the other photograph. This is from another angle. This is, Galwan Nala. This is that Nala wherein the Chinese came and sat. This is the original photograph. Officers who, there was an expedition launched in between to understand the difficulties and movement capability. This is when in 2008 Air Marshal Barbora he landed at 2019 they landed at Neoma. So Ladakh by now has certain advanced landing grounds and they are being used. They will be used in case of any contingency. They are presently also they are being used to give supplies, to send supplies. This is the middle mountain which you see is actually Finger 4. This is the recent photograph. I'm not talking of the facts and other things because our two presenters before, two speakers, they had spoken very well. International perspective also. I'm trying to bring the, I had also prepared a presentation, but now I need to show and link you up with the things happening at your home. Indian Navy showed certain kind of launched lots of good operations in between, and you need to know for various reasons. The scholars in particular, because only then you'll understand the capabilities of your armed forces when it comes to international movement, whether it's COVID or it's no COVID. So Operation Samudra Setu, in just 55 days, it evacuated 4,000, almost 4,000 Indians with its ships covering a journey, sea journey of 23,000 kilometers. Mission Sagar, it was launched to help the nations which are friendly to us, to send the aids, to send the doctors, medical facilities, medical assistance, and other essential things to them. And in that also 55 days, 30,500 kilometers were traveled. The support was sent to 5 island nations. Indian Air Force were put on standby, and in meanwhile they brought in people from Mohan, Iran and Italy. And there was a special ferry which was organized to the Maldives. And Army had contributed with the medical teams. Although within the country, they have created lots of infrastructure to handle the patients. Now, prognosis. This might sound like an academician actually, which since I'm a reporter, I go on fields. This I think is important in the terms like how the things will change. Things are bound to change. Operations, military operations, the country to country, intra-country, inter-country relationship, they'll be changing. And if US today is moving in a different way, as Dr. Mishra brought out, IT industry, any country which has done well with IT and digitization will be having an upper hand. The difficulties will come for those countries which are still developing and they don't have wherewithal in terms of economic might, in terms of money, in terms of their infrastructure, in terms of manufacturing. This COVID has actually generated lots of in mind of people, and they need to be followed. And if you have gone through this first presentation, ramifications. Important is the post-COVID-19 world. A new international order will be redrawn by the powerful countries, taking into account the lessons learned in the most important, the role of institutions will also be critically reviewed now. I'll change to the next slide. Here is what I wanted to say. There are certain hidden aspects also which will come to the fore. They'll come to the forefront. Use of tracking devices to monitor the citizens would conflict with human rights concerns in favor of security and safety. Countries in strong in information technology will play a major role in all aspects of life, in education, governance, e-governance, commerce, health, artificial intelligence. And the last slide which says, we need to take our weak and vulnerable along, even if we have to carry them on our shoulders. This has become the highlighted aspect, because if together the world will not face it, there's lots of pain all around. Having said that, the way the Indian government now, I'll bring you to the exact or the current status on the LAC. And you all know that the two foreign ministers, they met. Yesterday was an important meeting in Delhi, wherein review was done by our defense minister with CDS, with all the forces, armed forces. Meanwhile, talking in Delhi, there was a brigade commanders meeting which was held in Chushul area. And after 3 months, after almost 3 months, Indian armed forces, they were talking, they conducted certain operations. They have picked up heights now. Now in mountains, when you go to heights, you can observe things to very far areas. There's a technical term which is used in military, which is called as making the enemy's position untenable. So India started doing that same thing. It is occupying heights in many of the places, and it is making the positions of Chinese untenable. So, and having said that, I'll be waiting for lots of questions on the practical things which are happening in LAC. And meanwhile, Lipu Lake, which is in central sector, middle sector, there also a standoff took place. I wish to show you that photograph also. This is a real photograph of that standoff. I did that story. It happened on 5th of February, of 5th of June, sorry. This is that real photograph when PLA in white PP suits and our forces are, this is ITBP, which is on the right side, Indo-Tibetan Border Police. This is very important. This is pillar number 1. And if you see the date written, it's 1962. It is at this place in middle sector also, the Chinese are trying to create standoff, difficulties for us. And this is the original photograph of that place. If this pillar was settled as pillar number 1 in 1962, where does the difference of locations arise now? So if you see the larger perspective by seeing all these examples which I'm giving, there's a long-term motive of the Chinese, either to suppress you or to cut you to size, wherein you don't raise your head. Your military, your infrastructure built up all along the borders, they don't take place. And for the scholars, if BDCA of 2013 is what is to be believed, we are doing quite well. Border Defense Cooperation Agreement of 2013. In that, if the two sides decided that they will not touch the areas wherein the local population resides, India was at a receiving end, because by not building the infrastructure all along these borders, they compelled the people. If somebody is falling sick, somebody is not getting education, they will have to do inner migration, and the borders will be left. The term which I used right in the beginning was salami slicing. That had made the things easier for Chinese to do salami slicing. By today, raising lots of formations all along the borders and developing the infrastructure, what you have done is actually you have stopped this Chinese force from doing the salami slicing. It is frustrating for them to see that the forces which used to take 4 hours, 5 hours, and they used to sit leisurely at those borders, reacting immediately, is frustrating to them. Lots of things are in waiting, they will happen, but the way the things are being handled, it's very good. And rest lies now with the scholars and the presenters. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful speech and wonderful presentation and acquainting us with ground realities, which I am sure will be cherished by each and everyone present in the webinar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I will like to call upon our beloved principal, Dr. Ananta Mohan Mishra, for his concluding lecture. Sir, please, if you can come forward.
So again, thanking you all. About 2 hours, we are continuing the session, and session is meant for a very contemporary and burning issue selected by the Department of Defense Study of our college. And we are very lucky to hear and to view the presenter's opinion with their analytical ability, with their photographic and informative representations of the ground reality, especially by our Mayanak Singh Sahib. It is realized that the tension has been cropping up, and India has to take the challenge because our neighbor is not very good enough, having no tolerance with the policies initiated by the government, by the Indian government since the independence. They are in aggressive mood. In some cases, they are also violating the human rights as well. But we Indians have some principles, especially we have a human touch, a special feeling about our neighbors, about our citizens, and after all, the global people or the human race. We are going to consider all the things. Our government, since from the very beginning, are in a rational mood to finding out the solution, to handle our neighbors, especially those showing aggressiveness, have given the right reply whenever the situation demands. But in that case, especially during the COVID-19, what Chinese are doing, it's not very acceptable on to us. The pandemic has come, and finally the situation will become normal in future. But the presenters mostly what pointed out the post-COVID pandemic situation, where the IT sector or information technology will decide the ultimate fate of the human civilization. And we, the people also, the Indian also strongly believe that IT will have the major role to analyze, to finalize, to formulate all the strategies, policies, and their implementation part. And India is now very strong enough, both in terms of military capability, in terms of indigenous ability to depend upon its own research and development, not only in the field of normal industrial sectors. It has also shown its credential, its ability, its potential in the defense and strategic issues as well. The slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat has motivated us to rejuvenate us to depend upon our own skill, own talent, own research, own ability, own startup, own imagination. All these things will be intermingled, will be blended, will be enforced to make a Make in India nation for the future. And we sure will do something positive. We'll sure that India will give its capable leadership, which was somehow not been exerted, which was somehow not exhibited at the international level, but now we have arisen, acting, and determined as well. We'll do positively. Our policymakers, our administrators, our governments, our NGOs, they will do something most positively. And in the academic field we as well, will also, through our potential research and development, will also assist in this creative endeavor where India will get its rightful place at the international level. This seminar or this webinar is not an isolated one. I think it has started and it will be a continued process in future. Whenever the situation will come, whenever the exercise of the human activities, especially academic activities, demands for, I think our endeavor will remain in force to exercise the thing in a right fashion towards the right direction. Again, I, on behalf of the organizing committee, as well as from my college, and also from the management, that is the governing body, our beloved president governing body, other members of the governing body, our REAS faculty members, our capable non-teaching staff members, and of course our dynamic, efficient and bright students. I welcome and felicitate all the dignitaries, all the participants, all the resource persons, all the technicians whose association has made this endeavor a successful one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and just now spend something our effort to fight against COVID-19. The situation will of course will become brighter in near future or every coming future. Then we will put our best effort or put our endeavor in a normal manner. Thanking you all.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you once again. Now, finally, I will like to call upon my colleague, Professor Himanshu Burman, HOD, Geology Department, and also IQAC Coordinator, for vote of thanks. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of RAMNAGAR College and the entire supporting team, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Vinod Mohan Mishra for his keynote address of the webinar. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Pankaj Jha and Professor Mayanak Singh, and I am like to express our sincere thanks to both of them for giving an excellent coverage of today's topic, global tension during pandemic crisis, causes and consequences. We are all inspired by your great work. Well, Mr. Chairman and my dear friends, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheel started rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues who know their job and are result-oriented. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to all speakers of the webinar. We thank you for being with us. Thank you very much. That's all. Please, thank you. Hello,
Thank you, Professor Burman, for your speech. Now, with permission of Sir, I declare this webinar closed. Please, once again, I would like to thank all the resource persons from my college's behalf. All the participants, please stay safe and be healthy. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.